Hey guys, this is Jordi from forward3dprinting.com. Today we're going to actually start building our Rebelix style Prusa machine. It comes from the Rebel 2 project and the Prusa i3 Mark II. It's an amalgamation. So on this video, because I make mistakes all the time, you're going to hear me refer as the bolts as M8s, right? But they're M6s. Don't go looking around your bags like, what M8s? They're just M6s, that's what I mean. And if you don't want to just buy 10 millimeters, 12 millimeters, you can just use 12 millimeters for everything. The 10 millimeter just makes it easier for us to move the cable and make it disappear. Anyways, with that, let's get started. Hey guys, this is Jordi from forward3dprinting.com. I promised to my Facebook group, Forward 3D Printing, that I was going to put a video on how to put the Rebelix Prusa i3 together. The i3 Rebelix basically was a design made out of 3030 aluminum extrusion, and it was designed basically after the Prusa i3 Plus, and just to make the frame more rigid. A lot of the Prusa i3s can be upgraded to this system, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you what we're going to use. Right now we're going to go ahead and build the Y. Alright guys, so let's get started. The first thing you're going to need, and remember, you're going to need your two white pieces that you cut on your extrusion. That should be 320 millimeters long, the white pieces, and then two of the 360 millimeter pieces of extrusion 3030 you should have cut. You're going to need a bed plate. This one was from Rep Champion. You're going to need a bed, a heated bed. You can either get a PVC one or PCV one, I'm sorry, or you can get an aluminum one. I'm going to use the aluminum because remember, we want to use it to be self-calibrated, self-level bed. So I will recommend you to go ahead and spend the extra $4 and get the aluminum one. We're also going to need two 360 millimeters M8 smooth rods. They're going to be the ones carrying our plate. We're going to need the printer powers. We're going to need our motor carriage for the Y. We're going to need our our belt idler for the Y. We're going to need our plate carriers. This is what is going to capture our bearings. And we're going to need the rod holders or the Y holders. You're also going to need 4 of the aluminum profiles for the 3030 that I asked you guys to order early because they're going to take a little while. They come from China. You're going to need 6 of the 20 M3s. You're gonna need a 30 M3. You're gonna need two 16 millimeters M3s. You're gonna need an end stop. You're gonna need two 623 bearings. The reason we call them 623 is because the 3 means that in the inside is 3 millimeters diameter. These ones you can get in Ace Hardware or any hardware store. They're actually M3 they're M3 aluminum spacers. They always have them on. You're also gonna need 9 nuts. 8 M3 nuts. You're gonna need, these ones are 3030 T nuts, and these ones are called T nuts, but they're hammerheads. They're all M8, of course. You're gonna need 10 of the square ones, and you're gonna need 8 of the hammerheads. The reason we're using the hammerheads is to lower cost. If you go all 3030 T nuts, it's going to cost you a little bit an arm and a leg. So remember, try to split the cost in between these ones. Total on these ones, we're gonna use the square ones to mount the heavy parts, the parts that actually take resistance away from the belts, the ones that are under pressure. What else are you gonna need? You're gonna need 10 millimeters. I use socket head. You can use span head, doesn't matter. M8 screws or bolts, whatever you want to call them. And you're gonna need your trusty key. Alright, so the first thing we're gonna put together right now is I'm gonna go ahead and build this frame by adding these 4 corners. I'm gonna only build one for you in camera so you don't like bore yourself out, bore you to death. But I'm gonna show you once it's finished what it's supposed to look like, and then it's supposed to be square. Alright, so let's get started on the next one. So let's get started, but before we do, I forgot to tell you, you're gonna need 18 of the 10 millimeter ones, and you also are going to need GT2 belt. You're probably wondering why I forgot about that, because I'm goofy. Anyway, so let's get started. Notice that I actually aligned my extrusion, my 30-30, my two Y pieces and my two X pieces together, right? So what you need to do, the X pieces, the top of the X pieces are gonna take 3 of the T-nuts, of the 30-30 T-nuts, and the X pieces, or the Y pieces, are gonna take 2. All right, and that is gonna go in the inside of the frame. So I'm gonna put my Y's just really quick so you guys, how I'm gonna do these. My Y's and my X. And again, notice that the notes are on the inside. And you're gonna grab your corners. You're gonna grab one of the nuts, put it on the back, and you notice that we have left one in the center, and the one in the center, both of the X's, is because we want to mount the motor and we want to mount our idler. I'm gonna go ahead and tie these for you down to show you what it looks like, and I'll get right back. Alright, now that I've tied those 4 parts together, what I want to do is I want to get a level. In my case, I have a laser level that I used to use for tile, and actually I've used to install tile in my house. So I'm going to use it to make sure that my frame is square, right? Make sure that everything is square. Because again, remember, we're cutting these, and unless you're milling your aluminum, chances are you might have some imperfections on the edging. As you can see, it's square. So now I'm happy. If yours is not square, all you have to do, loosen up some of the bolts. Usually 2 counters, make sure that it's sitting, and then tie them up and then set up the 2 counter corners. Alright, so now as you can see, I have one trapped on this side, and like I said before, I have trapped one in this side, and the reason I didn't make you put the motor and the parts is because the idler is actually perfectly sit where you can just put it right there, and the only thing that's tight in it's actually the bolt, and these, the motor mount, actually when you put it on, snaps in. Alright, so we're gonna use it here in a second that way. So let's go ahead and move on to building the parts that actually carried the rods. I know we usually, when we're building a Y, we will also put the motor first, but in this particular case, we need to figure out how far away the rods are gonna be. So I'm gonna go ahead and start mounting these. I'll show you what it looks like when they're already mounted. You can use, again, T-nuts, sliding T-nuts for these, but because these ones are not gonna be like either pushed out or in, they're just gonna be holding rods that are straight, we're gonna go ahead and use our hammerhead, and we're gonna use this one again. The reason we're using half hammerheads and half T-nuts is because we're only using the T-nuts on the thing that actually is keeping this thing square and actually getting pulled from belts and so on. Anything that is just to be tied down, we can use these ones, cutting the cost. Alrighty, I'm going to show you what it looks like here in 1 second. I wanted to show you how I prepare them, because we're using the hammer heads and we're using the 10 millimeters. If you try to catch them while they're there, it's going to be really hard. So what you want to do is you want to put the bolt all the way in the plastic, and you want to make it keep on rotating, because remember we want to bring it in. And then you're just going to grab your nut, just give it 1 turn. Make sure that it's there, right? But it's still good enough, loose enough that you're going to be able to turn it so it locks into the channel. Now you're going to grab the second one and do the same thing. And this is how you just prepare your stuff, so when you're ready to put it all together, see, it's just easier. You just line up the things and put it together. Alright, so I have all 4 of them together. Now I'm going to line them up. And the rail, remember, they don't have to be tied right now, we're going to move them later. All we're doing is just go ahead and putting these in. See? So you want to make sure, remember, that the nut is going to be able to spin. So you give them just enough thread so it will be able to free spin when you drop it in there. Right? So I'm going to go ahead, tie this one. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to mount the motor and our idler. So the motor is going to go to this part. Notice right here it's got a notch and it's got 2 holes. That's for your actual end stop. Notice I didn't change the model for the end stop just in case you have to have different end stop. For this particular type of end stop, you're going to need M2s. If you have one with bigger holes, you can use M3s to these holes specifically. And here you're going to use 2 of the 16 millimeters M3s to attach the motor, but we're not going to do that just quite yet. What I want you to do now is I want you to decide which one you want it to be the front and which one you want it to be the back, where your idler goes and where your motor goes. Our motor is going to go to the rear of the machine, our idler is going to be to the front of the machine. So once you decided that, what I want you to do, you see these groups on the part right here. I want you to grab the round end with the angle up, with the holes up pointing towards the sky, and I want you just to drop that little round part right there in there, right? And now what I want you to do is with your thumb, I want you to grab right here, and I want you to push the button in, and you'll hear it snap, right? And notice that you can still move it, but now you cannot remove it because it's snapped in. So that's the cool part about these little parts, that were made tight enough where you can actually just snap them. As a matter of fact, the idler doesn't even snap, the idler just sits there because it doesn't need to be as precise as what the motor needs to be tightened. Okay? So now that that's done, you're going to grab again another one of your M8s. And remember how we captured one in there earlier? And I told you to leave one loose for each side. Well, the idler is going to tie up to the one, and the motor is going to tie up to the other one. I'm going to go ahead and tie them up and I'll show you what it looks like. We're not going to worry about how tight they are because remember again, we're going to align everything to make it even and parallel. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this off and I'll see you guys in a minute. Alright, so now you can see how I mounted these two. Now remember, this one wasn't going to pop because it was actually like snapped in. But this one could like easily be lift up. So what I want you to do again, don't tie them up, leave it loose where we can move it, but not where you'll like fall off of it, right? Like that, for example. Don't worry about those. Remember, those can fall off because we also actually have entries. So now that that's tied up right there, again, you're going to just leave it as now somewhere where you can still move it. All right. And we're going to go ahead and mount our motor just so we can tell how much space we're going to need for the rod in between the motor and the rods, okay? I'm going to go ahead, this one you see, just pop right back in, and just twist back up, and it's tied back up, right back up. That's what I like from the hammerheads, and again, it makes the project a little cheaper. Alright, so now we have that, and where is Shadow? Here we go. So the next thing we're going to do is mount our motor. We're going to grab our motor. We're going to put it the pulley goes towards the end stop, right? So the motor, the cable is going to point, remember, if this is the idler, it's going to point towards the right side of the machine. If you're looking at it from the front, our motor is going to be pointing, the connection is going to be pointing in that direction. Or in this case, this way, like this, right? So you're gonna align it up. Usually I put the motor up so it's easier to wire it. You can put it down and the wire goes underneath and it will look a little cleaner, but I like to have easy access to it, so I just usually put it up, right? So you can put it in whichever direction you prefer. Again, in this case I'm gonna put it down since it's an example for you guys. The example, if we put it this way, it turns out a little cleaner. I'm going to go ahead and tie up the first one. And remember that I'm going to show you another method before in one of the videos, how to actually tie your belts properly, so that you're not putting stress on the parts and so on. So we're going to use that method here in a minute. However, we're not getting quite there to the belt. Alright, so you see me here, I'm tightening up the motor, tightening, turn this one right here. When we use the tighten method, the swing method, what we're going to do is we're going to remove the one in the bottom. We want to swing, so we're going to swing the motor this way instead of this way, because this way it has too much play. The other direction, it actually runs into the frame and allows you to measure that distance so you know the 11 degrees haven't been passed, okay? So I'll show you here in a second how we're going to tie that up. As a matter of fact, just for funsies, I'm going to tie it up backwards, just so you see what would happen if I do too much. I won't be able to pull it right back. So what I want to do again, remember when you tighten past 11 degrees, but we're not quite there yet. You'll see here in a sec. Anyways, I tied one of the screws of my motor right? And I'm going to go ahead and mount the second one and I'll let you see what it looks like when it's ready. So, I was going to tell you that we were going to use the swinging method, but guess what? I actually, for this particular print, if you printed from Thingiverse, I told you I actually have a tensioner that I printed for these, for the Y. So we're not going to use the swing method. I'll teach you the swing method when we get to the X. However, I just wanted you to see what it's supposed to look like when it's already done. Notice that we can still move these particular pieces because we're going to have to touch, and I still can move my motor. It's a little harder because now it has the weight of the motor, and I can still move my idler. So I want you to grab now your 623s to two 623s, and I want you to grab your 30 millimeters. One side has the end, it's round, and the other side has a hexagon stretch. That's how you know which side takes the nut and which side takes the pan head or your bolt head. So again, just make sure that you have those lined up properly so you don't over tighten the parts. You're gonna grab your two bearings, you're gonna put them down. You can hold them. If you put your finger should be able to fit in there. You just hold your two bearings and just put the bolt right through it. And if you notice, the two bearings allowed us to have actually a perfect space right there where the actual belt will sit. You might actually have to tighten them, but that's what Prusa does. Prusa actually asked us to tie this part. If this was the actual Prusa part, it does tie this where we're closing it down a little bit just to keep pressure on. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down. Tighten it down. And again, I'm not putting any belts right now because I haven't mounted anything. It's just showing you again what it's supposed to look like when you have all your parts ready. Huh, this knot doesn't want to go in, what do you know? Anyways, there we go. Now I can see the bolt. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten it down. Tighten it down. Alright. So I'm just going to leave it like that for a minute so I'm not boring you trying to tighten it down. Okay, so this is what I want you it needs to look like before you start putting belts and you mount the rods. Now we're going to loosen this up because we're going to actually put the rod, and the rods actually can snap on these ones. I usually don't like snapping them, but I'm going to show you just so you see. These are 360 millimeter smooth rods. See? So it's actually designed so you can just snap in together. Usually I like pushing them in, but again, you can just do that method. It also works. I'm just going to take our second one. The other method you can do is you can set them on the table, pop it, or push them in, and then you can, once it's all one piece, then you can pop it right back in. But again, this method is fun, and I like showing different things, different ways to do it. So now you see how it's all going to be lined up. Now, if you're wondering why I didn't put the bearings, it's because I just want to make sure that all my measurements and all my distances are equal and are equilateral and are straight. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this video for 1 second, and I will continue as soon as we move on to these three beautiful bearing carriages. Alright, I'll see you in a second. Alright, so now we're going to move to our bearing holders. Usually you can put them you can push them in with your hand. If they're too tight, I will make sure just like I did with the knife, clean up, make sure that they're nice smooth. If they're too tight to push them in by hand, you can use a wood clamp. Again, I don't like doing that. If you can push the part by hand, something might be wrong with your part or your stuff per millimeter. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and capture the entire LM8LUU, and you notice that it actually matches. Now again, if you didn't find the LM8LUU, you can use two LM8UUs side to side. That's fine too. The only difference is that this makes it a lot stiffer because it's only one piece. So again, you're gonna grab your power, you're gonna pop it on the top, and again, just with your hand, again, solid surface, and there you go. And now those three are prepared. The models, as you can see, are perfect, but the reason I cut that in camera is to show you again, you can shave a little bit to get it started, but again, I don't want you to do anything like file the inside of the, you don't need to do anything like that. If that's the case, you can contact me in the group and we'll figure out why your machine is printing the parts too tight, because they're not supposed to be extra tight. So now we're going to go ahead and mount these to our bed carrier, and then we're going to put the bed carrier onto these rods. So I'll show you in a second how we're going to mount these, and I'll show you after that how we're going to put it onto the actual rods. Alright, so now as you can see, now I grab the carrier, and I have my 3 bearings, and I have my 6 20mm bolts that are left. Since we didn't have a lot of M3 bolts, you only should have about 9 of them, I think, 3/16 and 6 of the 20s. Now this is a plate. These plates are used in some of these, like the bearings look dirty in this, because again I'm upgrading a machine just to show you how easy it is to do if you want to do an upgrade, or if you want to build it from scratch, how easy it is. So the first thing you want to do is you just want to grab a bearing, just put it in the center right there. Notice actually already has the holes right there. If you notice, the bearing carriers actually has a space where the nut sits, and it's self-captured, but they're not really well made for self-capturing. It's just for you to actually have a reference point to keep your nut there. You're just going to grab your 20s, pop them from the top of your plate, whichever side you decide, it doesn't really matter. What does matter actually is how you sit it, on which direction, if you're mounting your end stop here. But since we're mounting an end stop here, it really doesn't matter if the 1 goes here and 2 go here, or 2 go here and 1 goes here. It really doesn't matter. Anyways, I'm going to pause the video, I'm going to mount these, I'm going to show you what it looks like mounted. Again, you're going to come in from the top and you're going to capture an M3 knot in there. Alright, so I'll show you what it looks like mounted in a second. And so we were tying those things, and I completely forgot earlier, we're going to need 1 more M3 knot and a couple of more bolts, and I'll tell you which ones are going to be here and when we're installing it. I'm going to install this one as we go. But this is your belt tensioner and your belt guide, right? So this is going to go right here. Notice that one side is bigger than the other one. That side goes towards the end stop and it hits the end of the block. See, that's what triggers the actual end stop. So make sure that you keep this handy. Again, we're going to put it to the bottom here in a second, and I'm sorry again, I forgot. But anyways, you're going to need a couple of M3 knots and just 1 square knot or 2 square knots. As a matter of fact, this is self-capturing right here, and the other one, the plastic, will just grab the M3 to tighten a couple of things. The only reason we need that there, the M3, is to actually capture. The nut goes there, just like I show you with extruder. I'll show you with extruder, I'm sorry, it's a square nut, or you can put a regular nut in there, and the bolt goes right there, and what it does, that bolt tensions these. It makes it come along and tenses the belt. In that case, like if you notice that your belts are becoming loose, instead of you having to take down the belt and retension it, which I have a couple of easy methods how to do that too, instead of that, just grab the nut, like the bolt, turn it, and that bolt walks forward and closes the gap. Anyways, so now we have 1 left, of course, and the tensioner, I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's together, and then I'm going to show you how to put the tensioner together. Alright, I'm going to put the last one on in video because I want you to see how these are put. As you can see, I left the head. I'm going to see if I can actually focus so you guys can see. I left the head, the actual a little bit of thread in. I started to put it out. So what I need you to do now is what you're going to do is, instead of threading all the belt and just try to put it, since they're actually captured in there, I want you to drop the knot when you have like 4 or 5 threads in the plastic. Now I want you to hold it with the thumb as you're tightening the knot, the bolt, sorry. And so the knot will just sit there. You're holding the knot in place. So it actually, until it gets captured by the bolt, and once it has a couple of threads, well, you can let it go. But again, we want to self-capture, make sure that is captured. Because again, you can see right here, I'm pretty sure you got your parts in your hand. Since the bolt keeps on going and tightens the part, if you don't put the knot first, then you won't be able to tie up the knot, to put in a knot if you tie the bolt in all the way. Anyways, and since it's plastic, it will offer a little bit of resistance. Anyway, so now you noticed they're there, still rattling a little bit, they're a little bit loose, and the reason they're a little bit loose because I want to make sure that I'm not over-tensioning. One of these things is bent, or I want to make sure that this is free to move until I decide that it's straight and I tighten it down. So let's go ahead and move ahead, and we're gonna build our tensioner. Now, as I said, if you have M3 squares laying around, square nuts laying around, which, you know, I don't know why you should have, but if you do, which, well, you know I do, I want you to grab a square nut and I want you to put it in the hole. If you don't, I want you to grab a regular M3 nut and put it in the hole. Either way works. The square nut just actually offers a little less tension for the spin. See? That's actually what it was designed to have, a square nut. That's why it's set that way. However, as I said, you can just put an M3 there and there and it will fit just the same. So anyways, I'm going to grab my nut. I'm going to shove it in there. Grab a screwdriver or something sharp just to push it in there. Make sure they're square. Make sure that I can see through the hole. You'll notice that it has another hole on the outside, but I eliminated the need for a bolt. It used to have a bolt right there that touched the end stop, but I eliminated that by making this piece longer and adding more space so it touches with the plastic instead of having to have just random bolt hanging there. Now that that's captured, just put it back in. See? These you don't need to put back in again. I'm just showing you. The only part that we're going to attach to the machine right now, it's this part, right? So what we want to do is grab the plate. We want to decide which side is pointing forward. Either, again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which way, because again, we're going to measure the rods. However, I would recommend to put these away from the motor, so away from the motor towards the pulley, whichever you prefer. Because if they're on the sides, you might actually run into the motor on the back if you put them short. However, again, we're going to measure it, so it shouldn't have a problem, but that will just facilitate to make it easier for it to move. So if you put it these with two on one side, this is easier for it, and it's less likely it will hit the motor. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on it, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's in it and which direction it should be facing. Again, it should be facing towards the end stop of the machine, and I'll show you when it's ready, and we will go ahead and mount it, and then I'll show you how to put the belts on. I'll see you in a second. So as I told you earlier, again, we're going to install the test. Now, you can see which the direction is. The taller part of plastic, it's pointing, the two are on the right of it, right? And this is still loose, but I do want you to go ahead and tighten this one. The one that is smaller takes a 16, and the one in the front takes a 20. The one here, you're gonna have to hold the knot with the needle nose pliers as you're tightening it down to guide it, and this one you just hold it with your finger. But I do want you to go ahead and tighten that down as tight as you can without breaking the parts, of course. Please do not over tighten anything, but I want it to be tight, right? I want it to be right on the pot. So now again, now it's right there solid. So again, so now what we're gonna do now is the front part. You can, either way you wanna do it, you can remove the rod and all that good stuff, and you can just pop it out from one side, right? You said that one shut out of it. Amazing. This one's going to stay here anyways. And I'll tie it here in a second. What I want you to do now, remember, these still a little loose, and we're gonna flip this over to tighten them up here in a minute. However, again, we left them loose for a reason. If you have a chance or something to do it with, bevel your smooth rods so you don't knock any of the actual bearings out of the bearing, like any of the bearing balls out of the bearing. And I want you to put, you want to start, on the side that has two of them, right? And I want you to guide it with your fingers and very slowly push the first one in, very gently, right? Until you are able to get the one on the other side trapped. Again, guide it with your fingers. Don't trust that anything is aligned. Just guide them slowly and just keep on going. Notice that these things are keep on moving back and forward, and I'm fine with that because again, I set it up that way so I could make sure that everything was going to go straight. So now I'm cleared out of this one, and I need to find the other one to make sure they're straight and even. There we go. You see? They're both in now. So now I can actually separate and measure my distances. Now to measure your distance for the motor, this is the easiest way, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do it. You're going to put the end stop, the two holes to the end stop, and you're going to line them with the holes off the belt holder, right? And then you want to do the same to the idler, right there. And now what you can do is just move the plate to one side, tie one down, move the plate to the other, and tie the other, right? So I'm going to show you how to do that. You put your screwdriver here, now that I know where my measure is. Now, again, that will be if I decided, just showing you how to tighten it. So since we want to make sure that it's even, I'm going to grab my calipers and I'm going to try to square these as far as I just eyeballing it. Usually it hits the edges of right at the edges right here of the frame brackets. But you know, I don't know which plate. You might not decide to get this plate. You might decide to get another company's plate. So I'm just showing you what these would look like. Right now, we're gonna make sure that these ones are square and that this is tight. Now, if you do these, you'll notice that if it was too tight, it'll move them out to the side. The moment it moves it out to the sides, then you know it's even and straight, right? Because the bearings are sitting there. So even if they're wobbling, they're lined up together. So when you move them, then you know now the distance. So now I can tell because of the corners that I'm about 2 millimeters or 1.5 millimeters on each side. So that pretty much makes me straight. So I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten down. Right? Just again, just snug enough, just in case I need to move them again. I can do it quick. But I want them to actually be in a place where I know exactly their capture and where the location are going to be, and this is as good as any. So now that I tie those down, I'm going to make sure that this is not binding, right? You're going to make sure that it goes all the way to the back and to the front with a binding. The other two still loose, so it's still going to be able to move. So now I'm going to go to the other side, make sure that they're pushed all the way outside by the bearings, and I'm going to pull it out to the front, and I'm going to tie one by one. Tie that one a little bit until it's snugged. Tie that one a little bit until it's snugged. Again, it's snugged enough where it won't move when you're trying to push it next time, but not too tight where you won't be able to move it, or it's just too firm. So now you see right there, there's the motion right there that I was looking for. Everything is moving perfect and smooth. And it comes to one side and the other one. If you feel that one side is tighter, all you gotta do is loosen the bolts again. Remember, since we had a measurement, we know that this is supposed to be about 1.5 millimeters in on both sides, away on the corners of the edges from the frame. So I'm gonna loosen this up too. And one more time, I want to make sure that, see, without bumps, without heads, that it gets all the way to the end and all the way to the other side. You see how it's moving that way? It's because it's loose. So I'm going to tighten it up again, move it all the way to the end. And if I tied it right here, it should give me the full range of the plate now without actually moving the other ones to any other way. So it's really good now. Alright, so now we're tied. Now, don't worry about, again, I said snug because we still have to flip this over, fix this, make sure that we tie this, make sure that it's even, and then we'll tighten this down permanently. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and flip this bad boy over. Alright, so now I have this tightened up, these two tights up, and I tightened this up, but I wanted to show you again what it's going to look like from the bottom. Because remember, you want to see that these things are actually tightened up. Make sure that everything is tied up here. Remember, this one is the only one that was tied up completely. Now that we have everything square, now you can tie these ones down. I already went ahead and did that. Okay, so you went ahead and tied this one because we already decided where is it going to go. And we're going to go ahead and line these two with this part of the motor, right? And we want to line it up to that because the belt is going to go through the pulley, through the idler. So I'm going to go ahead and tie up some of these things. So once I have where I need it, I'm going to eyeball it. Usually just put it to the center of the dots or whatever, to the holes for the M3s, but I'm going to put it right there. And I'm going to go ahead and tie that down. Now since I don't want it to move it anymore. Right there. Perfect. And now I'm going to move the idler until I have it square also. And I'm also going to go ahead and I'm going to make sure it doesn't move. And that is tied down. Alright. So now what is the only thing is left now will be to put the belt on these and to man the hot plate. But I'm not going to show you the hot plate as part of these. I'm going to show you because I want to make sure that you understand which direction the bed is going to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this down. So remember we captured that knot right there. Okay, so I want you to find a long bolt. And again, I didn't mention this one because I haven't forgot until earlier. So now that your belt tightener or your tensioner is tight, notice that the other part just literally just squeezes in there, right? It just goes right in there. So what I want you to do is grab a 30 or a 25 and tighten it down in the hole. So the bolt head points towards the idler, just so you know if you were wondering, because the big part of the belt capture or of the belt tensioner goes towards the end stop, because that's what triggers the actual end stop. So I'm gonna go ahead and tie this down. I'm not gonna tie it all the way because remember that's a tensioner, so the idea is to use it to tension the belt instead of me actually having it as a ram belt later. So I'm gonna go ahead and make sure this is open. You see how it pops out all the way out and now it won't come out. And as I spin the bolt now, you'll see it's actually tightening it in towards the actual other direction. So what that does is if you don't want to actually have to remove your belts tighten, all you have to do is a couple of turns on these and that tightens your belts. Alright, so I'm going to leave it about that much just so I can actually get some good tension when I'm ready to do it. I'm going to go ahead and get the belt cut out for you guys, measure it up, get it all cut, and I'll show you how to install it. Alright, so now you guys can see I have it flipped up different direction and I have my steel belt. My belt actually reinforced with steel. If you're putting this with rubber, you'll notice it will be a lot easier to do. But if you have this type of the steel belt, it's gonna be, you're gonna have to use needle nose pliers. Alright, so the side that triggers the end stop, this is self-captured, right? So you're gonna grab these and you're gonna put it towards the ring, and you're gonna make sure. But I need you to make sure on this side towards the end stop, I need you to make sure that you don't leave any slack on the belt. Right? I want you to make that as close as the edge when it captures as possible. And I'm gonna show you what it looks like really quick, so you get an idea what it's supposed to look like. I'm gonna put the picture probably on the website too and the group so you guys see what it looks like. But so notice that I left very little belt coming out of the idler, that is the part of the belt that is capturing itself, right? And the reason I did that, it's because when this part of the belt walks towards the idler, I don't want the belt to go doubled onto the belt, because then it's either going to bind or I'm going to lose steps. So what I want to make sure again is that the other end, like the end of it, is not coming out, or it's only coming out at about a millimeter, nothing more past that. And again, you can see here is right there, you can only see a little pipe left on it. Anyway, so you're going to put this through your pulley, you're going to put it through your bearings on the idler. You haven't tightened your idler down, go ahead and now you can do that now. The actual bearings, you can go ahead and tie those down. And the reason I wait again that is because it actually has a channel to remember where, how tight you can put it, and you can put set screws, but since we're using this tensioner, we don't need the set screws that are applied to these holes as to push the bearings backwards. The bearing will be pulled by the belt tied towards the front, and our actual tensioner will allow us to keep it in place instead of having to put set screws. I don't like those set screws either. It's just strange because if you do it one side more than the other, then the belt is trying to move sideways a little bit, and it's never good. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and tie this down, and as you can see, the belt is still right in the middle of it, right? So we want to make sure that it's aligned right in the middle of it. Perfect. Alright, so I made this belt extra long just to show you guys how to do this. Here, again, just like if you saw my other video, how to tighten your belt, I just want you to do it snug. We're not going to use the swing method here. We're going to use the actual tensioner that we printed and we put in the machine. Which we're going to tighten it up from this side down. in this bolt right here until it's actually tight and you can hear it pluck like a guitar string. Alright? So I'm going to go ahead and tighten that down. Instead of showing you, again, there's the screw right here. You're just going to put your key and you're just going to turn the bolt that you put earlier and capture it as a knot to tighten it down. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the video and show you guys what it looks like when it's tight and what it sounds like. Alright, as you see, I already have my belts installed. Again, if you use the tensioner the proper way, just like I told you, it should have been pretty easy to use. You can hear there, actually, you hear that click, click, click? Okay, that's because the belt is actually hitting the side of the pulley. So what you need to do here is move one of either the motor or the idler. In this case, I'm pretty sure it's a motor. I'm going to go ahead and measure it. So if you see on this side, both of them need to actually be moved. This one needs to be moved this way, and this one needs to be moved a little this way, just to make sure that the belt is actually eating even. What I'm going to do is loosen this up just a tad bit, and I'm going to move it. And I know it sounds weird because, you know, if you tighten these, but remember, this is one solid piece and it's actually attached to a 30-30 knot on the inside. So moving it is not really hard. You just grab a screwdriver and tap it really carefully. Make sure you don't tap it too hard or anything until the belt on one side is matching, is parallel to the center of the actual gear. And now you can tie that one down. Ta-da! See? Now I know that my motor's aligned, and that sound earlier showed me the motor wasn't in the beginning. Alright. Now to make sure that the idler is also moved the direction it needs to go. And I think I'm going to tap it in this direction just because the belt is moving strange there. There it goes. Now just like that down through the points. And I'm going to move it, so make sure that it catches the right spot. And now I can see that my belt is actually running perfectly parallel to itself. So I'm just going to go ahead and tap that down. Alright. And now, as you can see, it's flush. The reason we were doing it on the table, and please don't do it on the carpet, build it on a table, it's because you want it to be square, right? You want it to be flush, so it's a flat surface. And this table is as flat as 1.5. That's why I'm using this one. Anyways, so check that out. You can see the belt it's not wobbling back and forward, trying to go moving in another direction. And here you can tell, as I'm moving them, they're parallel, right? All right. So now the only thing that will be left then will be to put an end stop. If you don't have it wired yet, go ahead and wire it. Of course, make sure that you have the right configuration for your end stop. Some of them put the wire on each side. Some you put the wire on the like right beside each other. So again, make sure that you have configuration right for your end stop. Doesn't mean that because you have the same color end stop will be the same setting. A lot of companies use different color schemes for their end stops. Anyway, so all you have to do will have to grab two M2s. You want to remove this lever, you can. Usually the actual, if you install everything correct, the thing will not require the lever. I'm going to go ahead and pull that mine out. It's just going to hit that button right there all by itself because the button actually comes out to the front. Alright, so I'm going to hit and tighten up our end stop, right? And you're going to hear it when I get to the very end. So we need the little arm, the actual block that is holding the belt, hits that. You only need that much on the notch to actually push the little button. See? Alright, so we're going to go ahead and now we can mount our bed. Whether you have an aluminum one or a PCB. If you have a PCB, you can put glass and aluminum tape on the bottom of the glass. If you want to self-calibrate it, the reason I use aluminum is because I can just put the PI directly and print the top of it while it's self-calibrating because it's aluminum. So it's easier for me. Anyways, the wiring, just so you know, is going to always go towards the motor. Right? So our wiring is going to face this direction. We're going to tighten it up pretty nice and everything. But so this is how it's going to sit, right? And now this is where these spacers come in. Remember, at this point you should have still these 2 20s, sorry, 4 of the 20s left, and you should have 3 4 regular nuts with it. I'm gonna go ahead and dig in here a bucket because I think I dropped one of the 20s when I was doing something else. So 4 nuts and 4 bolts, right? So these spacers, what you gotta do again, doesn't matter which decisions. Some of them are bevel or canted, some of them are not. It's up to you which side to use. It really doesn't matter. Just make sure that whatever you decide sides to use, they'll match the same size. Oh, look at that, all 4 of the little barrels fell down. Anyways, so now I have my barrels, or spacers. Again, you can buy those at Ace Hardware, or I found some at Lowe's, but these ones are from Ace Hardware. They were like 15 cents or 20 cents a pop, and they work like a charm. You're gonna put all 4 barrels up. Make sure they're matching the holes. You can even put your bolts if you want. The mean just to have their whole spot. Oh, there's that 20 that I dropped earlier. And so again, I want them to match all the same way. If you're using the size of the hole, you want to use the size of the hole up, the ones that is beveled, or if you're going to use the other side, make sure that they'll pointed the same way, so you don't have spacing or warping problems. I know everybody's saying like in aluminum, but yeah, in aluminum too. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and make sure they're there, they're matched. Okay, so now you're gonna grab your bed, gonna remove your screws, make sure that they're on the holes. You're gonna just let them drop them through the bed, right? Now we're gonna use the actual holes just to guide us into putting it in spot. I guess if you were putting it to the bevels up, it would make more sense now that I'm thinking about it, because then it would be easier to, match out the holes, since it would be in the other way. However, I'm not really concerned about that, because I got the magic in me. I got the magic touch, people. And so I drop one, I'm gonna pull it up very gently, and put it back in. You see all of them in there. I want to make sure all of them drop through the holes beneath on the plate. And if you actually put the 20s, you will notice that it's only a couple of threads that are on the bottom. And the reason I did that, so you can just hold the nut and spin it. I want this plate tight. I don't want this plate moving or displacing forward or backwards. Once it's set, I want it set, right? So put the belts, and now I touch my bed. The PEI and all that glass stuff and all everything else that you can do, I'll show you later. Again, right now it's just building the things so that's it for it to work. Again, you're gonna only have a very little thread at the bottom. Don't worry about that. That's enough to actually grab the screw and make it do what we want it to do, which is keep that tight down there. And now, I'm gonna hold this down here, and again, the little thread is easier just to match it to the knot. When you have a lot of it, you're gonna have to find it with your finger. All right. So check this out. There's the wire for your bed. The wire from your motor come here. They come up, or you can put it inside the groove, whichever you prefer. Again, this is a personal choice thing. And your wires for your bed, and then of course your end stop should be wired. The only reason I have these bed wires so you cannot see is because we were actually going to use this bed to finish the build. So that's the white. You can see everything is moving, everything is working, our end stop is posed, and our motor is actually tightened up to the belt. So that's what it's going to look like. Next video we're going to go ahead and build our X. We're gonna go ahead and mount our Ys. Our Ys we're gonna mount first because I want to measure that everything is okay, and then we're gonna build the X, and then I'll show you how to slap everything together. So whatever you do, as always, do it as working for the Lord, not for man. If you have any questions, you can comment here, or you can join us on Facebook group Forward 3D Printing, and I'll see you next video. Oh, by the way, whatever you do, working as for